Not so much switching gears. I want to talk this a little bit here. Let's bring in Claudia Tenney, my great friend Claudia Tenney, and I want to bring in Art Laffer, former Reagan economist, co-author of The Trump Economic Miracle. Claudia, I want to just give you a quick shot. I want to talk about tariffs and other things with you and Art. Thank you both for doing this. We appreciate it. But you heard John Yoo, who is a very good constitutional lawyer and a former senior Justice Department aide, and he's basically rebutting all of the nonsense about unconstitutional this and unconstitutional that, and Mr. Trump can't have audits of his own agencies, and he can't find out and weed out fraud and stop it. I mean, you heard John Yoo. What do you think about this? What do you hear? What are your colleagues thinking about this?
Actually, Larry, I thought it was a wonderful discussion. He's brilliant. I love hearing him. He's exactly right. I was a constitutional lawyer. I actually tried cases and brought cases in federal court. But I want to just say, just on the fun side, Larry, I'm so glad when you were standing next to Alexander Hamilton, you didn't get shot, and we still have Larry Kudlow today. So,
I ducked. I ducked. That's very touche, Claudia. Touche. Arthur, you know, Mr. Trump has full confidence in Elon Musk. He's going to let Elon roam far and wide. It's perfectly legal. It's perfectly constitutional. And they're going to do a lot of government trimming. And it's just what the doctor ordered, Art. And in economic terms, I think if you try to put it in a supply-side framework, don't you think it's pro-growth? After all, the government's gotten out of hand. The regulations have gotten out of hand. And the spending is going to places that it should never have gone to in the first place.
I totally agree, and impoundment of funds makes perfect sense, too. Now, I was in the Nixon White House, if you'll remember, back a billion years ago when the impoundment rules came in. You know, they were put in after World War II. After Germany and Japan surrendered, Truman impounded the funds because we didn't need to build and construct all those weapon systems that had been built, impounded those funds, and that was a perfectly appropriate use of impoundment. And if you look at it today, what Doge is doing and what Elon Musk is doing is what every government department and agency should be doing on its own. Finding efficiencies, finding waste, getting rid of waste, abuse, and fraud. It's just wonderful. And when you do that, you not only accelerate growth, you increase the quality of the growth itself. So it's a win-win-win across the board. And I don't know why anyone would want more waste, more fraud, more abuse, and prohibition on people finding those misuses of funds. It just makes no sense.
Now we'll switch gears. Claudia, an important announcement, really, double announcement, but President Trump is basically saying he's not going to use a universal tariff, the so-called ring around the collar, that instead he's going to use reciprocal tariffs. That is, if you tax me, I'm going to have to tax you. But if you lower your tax on me, I will lower my tax on you. I say that's a path to free trade. But he also wants to renew his 25% tariffs on the imports of steel and aluminum. Claudia, what it make? You're on Ways and Means Committee, which has a lot to do with trade. What do you make of all this?
You know, I think that's a really interesting point, reciprocal trade versus reciprocal tariffs versus universal tariffs. I like the idea of actually it does sound almost like a free trade agreement. It's almost like without a document. But I do think that these tariffs have shown that we actually increase U.S. production and we actually bring our economy back with aluminum and steel. And the only thing, as I said, I think I talked about this last time I was on, Larry, is I'm a little worried about some of our copper fabricators and our ability to get them up to speed in time. They all are for it. They like the tariffs. They like the idea of bringing our supply chains back. But sometimes when you're dealing with commodities and you're dealing with small businesses and like sort of legacy businesses, where I am in upstate New York, where we have thousands of jobs with people producing and fabricating copper, from high-tech stuff to like the size of a human hair for the medical technology, to high-grade industrial use for the military and for other, building uses. So I'd like to see a universal tariff for certain things, but I like the idea, this reciprocal tariffs sound like a good idea. It sounds like something that we could almost like a negotiating, and it gives us a little more room for flexibility. And I think that's what Trump's always looking for, is a way to negotiate and get flexibility, and also to stop us from getting taken to lunch by the World Trade Organization and some of these countries like that China is manipulating the system and working around them to get products in here by violating those laws. So I think it gives that country confidence in the United States and the ability to actually engage with us as opposed to dealing with China, which is what these countries really want in the end.
Yeah, Arthur, you know, I can make a case that reciprocal trade leads to free trade. I mean, I think that in the back of his mind, in his heart, I think President Trump has always believed that. I wrote a couple of op-ed pieces before G7 meetings. He signed off on them. I made that point. Reciprocal trade can lead to freer trade for sure. What do you think, Arthur?
I think totally. I mean, well, he is well aware that these other countries have much higher tariffs on our products than we have on their products. And if you look at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity notes this morning, it's every single country has higher tariffs on our exports to them than we have on their exports to us. And if it's reciprocal, if they cut their tariffs down to our level, that would be really amazing. But, you know, these mercantilist ideas that exist in these other countries, he needs to threaten. He needs to do this to bring it down. I had conversations with him, Larry, going way back to 2017-18, when he said this is a way of getting free trade, and I think he's totally right. He scares the bejabbers out of me, to be honest with you. I cringe, I worry, and I don't. But he delivers on it every single time so far, and I fully back what he's doing on having them lower their tariffs to match ours. That's reciprocal trade agreement leading to freer trade.
Claudia Tenney, another subject. Blessedly, the new OMB director confirmed by the Senate, my friend Russ Vought, he is closing the CFPB, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which didn't protect anybody except Senator Warren and her friends, and basically terrorized banks and financial institutions trying to make various loans. This was a terrorist organization, and they're closing it down. President Trump directed Russ Vought to close it down. Russ is the right guy to close it down, and I'm hoping Congress will back up Russ Vought on this.
I love this move, Larry. I used to serve on the Financial Services Committee, and Jeb Hensarling is probably, you know, singing to the choir somewhere. He is so excited about this going away. It is a terrorist organization in a way, financial terrorist organization. What they do is they prevent banks from engaging in what they're supposed to do, assessing their own risk, protecting their customers. They're getting in the way of the ability of banks to be able to do that. That's why we've seen such a small number of local and community banks left. All we have are the big giants. They've really hurt the banking industry. They've taken the diversity and the stratification away, where you have all kinds of banks to do great resources for clients at every level, whether they're small, you know, small lenders up to the small or borrowers up to the largest borrowers. I love this idea, and as someone who has been a lawyer to banks and worked with banks and love community banks, but you know the larger banks serve a purpose too. I love that they're doing this totally useless organization. It is also duplicative. A lot of other agencies already do that. We don't need them. Let's close it and walk everybody out the door. I'm really happy about that.
And Arthur, if you keep going this path, you know, this is deregulation at its finest. As Claudia said, you know, this was a make-believe organization. This served no purpose at all. It was stopping business loans, personal loans, payday loans, credit card loans, putting their noses into everything, as though the Federal Reserve and the controller of the currency and the FDIC, I mean, as though we don't have enough regulators to begin with. This is another one, Arthur. You know what? This goes with the Elon Musk stuff. Put it as a supply sider. This stuff is pro-growth. It removes the shackles on business, it seems to me, and it's pro-growth. Give you the last word.
I think it is pro-growth, and I think the markets are seeing it as pro-growth, Larry. As I mentioned to you earlier, the real rate of return on capital has popped up in the last couple of years dramatically from being a negative number to a positive number. The outlook for the economy looks really great according to the bond market. Inflation's not picking up, and real growth is coming in. I mean, that led to higher interest rates, but honest to goodness, everyone is expecting this economy to do well, and I think it's because of deregulation, it's because of tax cuts, and pro-growth monetary policy once we get control of the Fed.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, the deregulation is already beginning. And that's what these audits are all about as well. And that's what this closing down unnecessary regulators. Anyway, you're both fabulous, Art Laffer and Claudia Tenney, House member from upstate New York. Terrific stuff.